What's going on, guys? CTG Matt back. You read the title. Today I'm putting together a starting five plus a bench of players that I still believe in, players I still have faith in. I'm going to come right out and say it. This video was heavily inspired by an MLB YouTuber named Baseball Bones, who recently did a video on a starting 9 of MLB players that he still thinks can be good. Watch the full video. I enjoyed it. I'd recommend it to you if you're a baseball fan. But I transferred that. I said, all right, let's just bring this to basketball. So I'm building a starting 5. Positions, of course, but not strict positions. Forward is forward, you know what I mean? I'm not doing a strictly a 4, strictly a 5 spot. We get a little loosey-goosey with the positions, and these are all players that I really believe in. I think that these guys could still be good, whether they're unsigned to this day or whether they're on the same team, which will be happening later in this video. Like, subscribe if you enjoy this video. Let's get right into it. You understand the premise. No, I'm not taking any players in their sophomore or junior years in the NBA, 2-3 years in. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. They're still very young in their career. They have plenty of time to turn it around. I'm talking about guys who've been in the league for a little bit. They have some tenure, and they just aren't sticking anywhere. We're starting with the former 2017 #1 overall pick as our starting point guard. It's Markelle Fultz. It's never going to end. You want me to stop being a Markelle Fultz believer? How dare you? That's never going to stop. He's had a really turbulent career. He had shoulder issues that ended his time in Philadelphia. It landed him in Orlando. Really weird stuff with Markelle Fultz that rookie year. It was a strange time, but he ends up in Orlando after a trade. He has what looks like, in my opinion, a career renaissance in 2022-2023 with the Magic, and now he's not getting any contract offers. He barely played a handful of games last season with Sacramento. He hasn't really stuck anywhere. The belief that Markelle Fultz could be a star was basically gone by like year 3. I don't think anyone really had high hopes. Even when he went to Orlando, nobody was looking at him like, oh, he still got star potential. It was more so like, all right, can we at least become a full-time NBA player? And it looked like he did. In that 2022 season, Markelle Fultz averaged 14 points per game, almost 6 assists, 5.5. It's 5.7. You can round up, round down. I'll let you do that yourself. And then 4 rebounds and 1.5 steals per game. His calling card has been consistent. It's defense. He's an amazing defender. But that season, it looked like he really put it together as a rim finisher and a mid-range shooter. He still can't shoot the 3. He's never been able to, and I don't think he's ever going to be able to. But he hit his mid-range shots at a respectable clip that year, and he made layups. 14 a game is not bad. I mentioned that he's a really good defender. He's listed as 6'4", but he has a wingspan of 6'10", 6'11". That's absolutely ridiculous size-wise, and he's really good defensively. Last season in Sacramento, opponent points per 100 possessions went down 6.5 points. With Markelle Fultz on the floor, I want to let you know how crazy that is. His starting center last year was Jonas Valanciunas for a majority of the possessions he played last season. He managed to piece together a good defensive season in terms of defensive box plus minus and stuff like that, with Jonas Valanciunas as his starting center, an absolute void of a defender. I think the reason Fultz isn't staying in the league is pretty simple. He can't shoot. He struggles to shoot. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He also can't stay healthy, but the only thing he can really help in that 2 things that he can change is his three-point shooting. He needs to be able to be a better three-point. He needs to be able to knock down more consistent threes. His career high in three-point percentage for a season is 31% in that 2022-23 season that I talked about before. For a full season, his mid-range has been spotty at best. He had a couple of good seasons, like I said, the Orlando year, but outside of that, it's been pretty in and out. Rim finishing's always been relatively good, but that's about it in terms of offensively. My thought was that Markelle Fultz could turn into a Chris Dunn type player, a former guy considered a bust in the lottery. That still rounded out having a relatively okay career. You look at Chris Dunn playing with the Clippers right now. He gets pretty big impact minutes. In the playoffs, he was getting good minutes. He's one of the best defenders, perimeter defenders in the league, in my opinion. I think Markelle Fultz can be that too. But it all starts with him being able to play off the ball. How do you get to play off the ball? You need to be able to knock down a jumper. Markelle still can't do that. That's the one thing that's holding him back, in my opinion, from him being a Chris Dunn type of player. That's the difference between being in the league and out of the league. If you're realizing that your skill set, finishing at the rim and passing, he's a good playmaker, aren't being utilized, you need to be able to provide outside of that, and that's three-point shooting. Be able to stay on the floor. He's just about to turn 27 years old. It's not like he's 30. I don't understand how he doesn't get contract offers. I understand he is not somebody to build around anymore, But man, some team could use him as a backup point guard. He wouldn't hurt a team being the second or third guard on your roster. It wouldn't hurt to have him around, especially since he is so talented defensively. Onto the shooting guard spot, we have a guy who once dropped almost 40 in a playoff game and then just kind of disappeared. It's Terrence Mann. T-Man, like I said, dropped 39 in a playoff game. I know everyone remembers that because it was the Rudy downfall game. But after that game, there was thoughts that he could be like a real future piece for this Clippers roster moving forward. And then his minutes began to dry up. And then it became coach's DNPs last year. There was a toe injury in there, albeit, I will say that, but there was some coach's DNPs last year by T. Lue. Mann is a real hustle and heart type of player. What that means is, well, he doesn't really do anything great, except for he defends relatively well, and he shows great hustle. He's also got pretty good basketball IQ. He jumps passing lanes very well. Terrence Mann isn't a bad NBA player. He has a career three-point percentage at 37% for his career. That's pretty damn good, including last season where he shot 37%. He did struggle with the Clippers last season in terms of efficiency, but overall, Terrence Mann has been in the 75th percentile or better in effective field goal percentage at basically every season of his career. The guy has been a net positive shooter for a majority of his career, but it seemed like last year the Clippers just, for one reason or another, just didn't play him. Maybe they felt as though it was redundancy, having him and Dunn both playing at the same time. Redundancy? You get where I'm going. In Atlanta, though, Terrence Mann definitely didn't play bad. He had a better stint. He averaged about 10 points per game, 23 minutes per game, which is a lot more than he was getting with the Clippers. He shot 38.5% from three, which is pretty damn good. That's above career norms. Wildly enough, though, Terrence Mann has graded out as a horrible on-off defender in terms of his, well, like I said, on-off numbers and defensive plus-minus. Last season, with the Clippers, who were an amazing defensive roster last year, opponent points per 100 possessions went up 8.6 with T-Man on the floor. That's just unacceptable. The lineup he most played with last year, I believe, was Harden, Dunn, Mann, Jones Jr., and Zubac. That's a pretty good defensive lineup, and it graded out piss poor. Like, offensively and defensively, it was really bad. I'm not sure what exactly led to him getting 0 minutes last year with the Clippers specifically. In Atlanta, I can see why. He was getting paid a lot of money, and he was more so just a contract filler for them. They didn't really need to play him because they had Dyson Daniels, and they had a healthy amount of guard wing plays. Reese Shea, they're not going to take away minutes from the young guys. But the Clippers really didn't have that. They didn't have that issue. I mean, I don't know. Again, it's a guy who just provides a lot of hustle, a lot of heart. I'm not saying he's going to be a special player, but I expect him to be back with a contender soon. I think the contract's part of the issue as well. He's getting paid about $15.5 million, which just is too much for a Terrence Mann level player, especially with this new apron shit. He was involved in a trade package that sent Kristaps Porzingis to the Atlanta Hawks, as well as Drake Powell to the Nets. I have a friend who's a North Carolina fan, so there you go. There's your Drake Powell shout out. I don't mind T-Man. I think he's a good 3-and-D player, but again, he's just not on a contending team, and I don't really see him getting a ton of minutes in Brooklyn, and I don't know what his career will hold after that. He's made plenty of money, and he coaches overseas for FIBA, I believe now. I think he coaches like a youth team or something overseas. Pretty cool. Seems like a good guy. Made money, so it's a successful career, I'll tell you that much. But it would be nice to see him play on a contending team and actually get burned. Because like I said, the Clippers just started giving him nothing during the late run. We just spoke about overseas. We're not going overseas for this, but we are going to a different country. You like Canada? It's RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett set a career high in usage rate last year at 29.3%. And in that time, he also did set a career high in assists per game at about 5.5. His turnover rate was close enough to career norms to the point where I don't really need to mention it, I guess. His shooting did regress from that half season that he first spent in Toronto. When he first got to Toronto, the man was on fire and could not be stopped. Last season, it went more back down to earth. 21 points per game, very respectable. 6.5 rebounds and 5.5 assists, like I said, on splits of 47 from the field, 35 from three. Relatively respectable. You think that 35%, maybe it goes up 2 points next season. You're talking about 47-37. It's a really good year, but as for right now, 47-35 isn't bad. Where it gets bad is the fact that he shot 63% from the goddamn free throw line. 63%. Mind you, 44% of his shots are at the rim last year. 44%. Almost 50% of the shots he takes are at the rim, and he is a piss-poor free throw shooter. That doesn't translate very well. That translates to him avoiding contact because he doesn't want to have to shoot 2 free throws. It leads to tougher layups. Free throws are the easiest points in basketball other than like an uncontested layup, and RJ just can't make them. So that kind of nullifies his ability to get to the basket because teams are okay with fouling him. That's the big crux in RJ Barrett's game right now, is his inability to shoot a goddamn free throw. I question how that will work late game in like playoff scenarios. If he goes to the rim, teams are going to be so okay with just fouling him and making him make 2 free throws. With even more chefs in the kitchen next season, I really wonder how his role's going to look. You think about it, the Raptors have a ton of wing depth. Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Ochai Agbaji, Grady you-know-what, and Colin Murray-Boyles. I know Colin Murray-Boyles is more of a 4, but again, Scotty Barnes is going to be playing the 4, or Brandon Ingram's going to be playing the 4. You still have a bunch of guys at the wing spots. And again, I know Grady's a 2 more than a 3, but again, that still takes up another wing spot. They have plenty of wing depth, and I'm not sure what this roster is going to do next year. It's really weird. It's kind of awfully built, in my opinion. RJ Barrett and Brandon Ingram are kind of not the same skill sets, obviously, 2 different players. But overall, it just feels super redundant with all these wings that are just self-creators. Back to the main point, though, I doubt RJ's usage rate will be as high as it was last season. I think we can both agree on that, with Scotty being healthy, Brandon Ingram being healthy, and then bringing in a couple more players. I don't see his usage being as high, especially with his inability to make free throws. That really does hurt his game a lot. I also predict that his corner 3-pointers will see an uptick in volume. Whether he makes them or not, I don't know. He's been both good and bad from corner. He's had some really good seasons from the corner. In 2021, 2022, he shot 31% from the corner. That's gross. In 22-23, he shot 33% from the corner. But he did shoot 42% from the corner last season, albeit on only 72 attempts. Again, an uptick in volume. I'm curious to see how the percentages will be affected. Most of his 3-point attempts were above the break last year, like a vast majority of them. So again, his corner 3-point attempts were very limited. I expect that to see an uptick, though, because he will be playing off the ball more with Brandon Ingram, who's very ball dominant, and Scotty Barnes, who can pass, but again, still needs to create for himself. Believe it or not, RJ Barrett is only 25 years old. It feels like him, Zion, and Ja came into this league 10 years ago at this point. He is only 25 years old. I think there's still plenty of time for him to grow as an individual player, but what will he grow into? I'm really not sure, again, because you look at this Toronto Raptors roster, it is very oddly built. Playing R4, it's a little bit more rough. It's Wendell Carter Jr. I really do enjoy Wendell Carter Jr. I thought the ceiling on him was much higher than we've seen so far in his NBA career, I'll tell you that much. His career is documented by very high highs and very low lows, in my opinion, along with plenty of injuries to boot. Wendell Carter logged his career high in games played this season at 68. By the way, it's year 7, and he just logged his career high in games played at 68. He started 51 of them, so it's not bad. But again, 68 games as your career high in your 7th year is kind of indicative. It shows that he has broken down quite a bit. However, in his real first full season, because he was eligible for awards, even though he didn't make any, you know what I mean, he was abysmal. He shot a career low from 3, except for when he was a Chicago Bull, which I feel like people have already blanked out of their mind that he was a Chicago Bull once upon a time. Sometimes I forget too. He shot 23.5% from 3. His jump shot looks visibly painful. I don't like it. As with like 80% of the Magic roster, I just don't like how their jump shot looks. But either way, Carter was once compared to Al Horford coming out of college, and he was thought that was like Al Horford Jr. because he was switchable on defense. He was better as a 4 than a 5 when he first came in, and we were kind of sold on his ability to develop a 3-point shot. He still is a really good post defender, which is something that Al Horford is as well. So that definitely helps, the fact that he is an anchor in the post, one of the best in the league in my opinion. He is relatively okay at switching on the perimeter too. I definitely respect him on the perimeter more than a lot of other bigs. He can shuffle them puppies, as they say, and he can create offense in the post in my opinion. He's not a bad post scorer when there's like a switch. But I do think he was hampered last year and a couple of the last seasons by not having a true facilitator on the roster. I know Paolo and Franz are fantastic players in their own right, but last season, the main lineup that Wendell Carter Jr. played with had Corey fucking Joseph as the starting point guard. Corey Joseph. I know he won a ring and took it back to the 6 like Corey Joe, but Jesus, man, that's not good. He's just not as offensively capable as once thought. I mean, that's kind of how I got to phrase it. His best season as a pro, in my opinion, is either 2021-22 or 2022-23 because he averaged about 15 points per game in both seasons. He shot about 33% from 3 in both seasons and averaged between 9 to 10 rebounds per game in those seasons. His defense is still quality, and he's going to continue playing the 5 because I don't think that they have a better 5-man that can push him to the 4 unless you want to do go-go minutes at the 5 with him at the 4. I just think it would get way too ugly with that because Carter's three-point shooting has been ugly. But I think he would work really well with a big but albeit kind of mobile center at the 5 who could shoot and stretch it out. I don't know, like a Miles Turner type. Maybe, I don't know. I still think Carter could work better at the 4 than the 5, but he's going to be playing the 5, so you might as well get used to it, big guy. While his defense held up at the 5 last season playing full-time center, he again posted a career-low 9 points per game. Career low. And he shot 46% from the field, a career low. And with his offensive role diminishing year after year after year because they're just adding more people. Jalen Suggs is coming back healthy next season. He's a guy that they're paying $35 million. He's going to be taking shots. And then Paolo and Franz, of course. God forbid a Tristan Da Silva develop into a real player. Carter's role is just becoming less and less and less in favor of better players, in my opinion. Again, I still like Carter Jr.'s post defense. He's an anchor down there. He's an all-right rim protector, and he's switchable. But the offensive game just has not been there, and it's kind of needed for the Magic, in my opinion. I think if Carter Jr. could turn around his three-point shooting and become a net neutral to positive shooter, I'm talking 33%, 34%, become a net neutral as a big man, as a shooter, it would help this Magic team severely because they are a team full of hitch jump shots. All right, they need somebody to start smoothing it out. And lastly, we had a first overall pick in the starting 5. Now we're having a second overall pick in the starting 5. This is James Wiseman. James Wiseman's only 24 years old, but things have not gone his way at all in his NBA career. He gets drafted to the Warriors where he just doesn't fit. He didn't. The Steve Kerr offense was very perimeter-centric. Wiseman was a post big man that wanted his mid-range touches that just didn't fit in the offense. He ended up being a very big net negative in his rookie season. I mean, it's not the best place to start, but again, it's only your rookie season. Oh, he tore his meniscus and missed his entire sophomore season. Rats. We'll get him next time. Year 3 gets dealt to the Pistons. Again, another place where careers go to die. Not recently. They've been good, though. I'll give the Pistons credit recently. But when he gets there, the lineup that he played most of his minutes with, James Wiseman, had Marvin Bagley, Isaiah Livers, and Killian Hayes. I don't know if those are real players to be playing, but that's what he was given. That team won 17 games. 17! And James Wiseman still wasn't really being used that much. Again, he was coming off a meniscus injury, so I get it. He was kind of rough, and he wasn't getting a ton of playing time in Golden State to be able to get used to NBA defenses and the NBA game. I doubt he's seen like 1,000 possessions or 1,000 minutes at this point. You gotta understand, he went from NBA champion potentially. Well, he did win a championship actually. He was part of that team to a 17-game winner in the Pistons, and then he leaves the Pistons. And after that was after 23-24, he leaves the Pistons. He signs to the Pacers. 5 minutes into his Pacer tenure, he pops his Achilles and misses the entire season again. This leaves him in a really wild spot because he has now had 2 season-ending injuries before even stepping on a court, really. He's had a very rough career, but again, this Pacers team is really in a rough spot. He might get a look for this Pacers team. They lose Miles Turner in free agency, leaving them with a center core of James Wiseman, Thomas Bryant, Tony Bradley, Jay Huff, and Isaiah Jackson. Isaiah Jackson more of a 4, but he can play a small ball 5, blah, blah, blah. Is James Wiseman good enough to beat out Thomas Bryant, Tony Bradley, Jay Huff, and Isaiah Jackson in positional battles? Honestly, at this point in his career, I know the video is I believe in these players, but bro, I'm not really sure at all. Jay Huff might be better than him. Without Tyrese Haliburton, the Pacers may look for another source of offense. I mean, I don't know. They still have Andrew Nembhard, Pascal Siakam, Aaron Nesmith, but maybe they just need another score, another facet. Maybe they give Wiseman a look for offensive purposes. I really don't know, but again, coming off another season-ending surgery, I don't know what's going to happen with him. We may be witnessing James Wiseman's last season as a pro. That might be exaggerative, but not really when he's had the injury history that he's had and he's had struggles to stay on the court because his defense is very bad. Like, he's not a good rim protector. He's not overly physical in the paint. He struggles defensively as a center, and offensively, his bag is very limited, and he's not really a three-point shooter. He's in a very bad spot. I'll just say that. All right, over to the bench. This one's a little bit more random. It is Katon Wallace. Did you know that is Katon Wallace's older brother? I don't even think it's listed on Basketball Reference, but it's true. Katon Wallace is the older brother of Katon Wallace. You know Katon Wallace. He won that championship with the Thunder last year, silly. Come on, wake up. I feel like a lot of people just didn't know that, so I feel like I had to drop that. But Katon Wallace has not gotten a very big NBA sample. But I'm not sure he ever will, in all fairness. But in the G League, Katon Wallace averaged 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 5.5 assists, while shooting 44, 39, 82 splits. That's pretty good. I get it, G League stats probably do not impress you in the slightest, as J.D. Davison won G League MVP last year, I believe. Katon Wallace did have a triple-double in the last game of the season last year with a 15-point, 15 assist, 11 rebound game with 5 steals to boot. He is the only player in Atlanta Hawks history to have a triple-double with 15 points, 15 assists, 10 or more rebounds, and 5 or more steals. The only one ever. Quite the stat. He also had a random 27-point game in January. I mean, that was against the Bulls, but either way, this is just really weird how he had a couple of really good games, and it just stuck out to me, honestly. Assist numbers aren't bad. He's averaged a 2-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio basically everywhere he's played, G League, NBA, blah, blah, blah. He hasn't really gotten a look overall in his NBA tenure. He's not a terrible three-point shooter, in my opinion. In his G League split, say, 39%. I'm not saying that's real, but it's also not fake. I don't know. Wallace has also shown defensive instincts, similar to his brother, who is a pit bull of a defender. He averaged about 1 steal per game in 16 minutes per game. That's pretty crazy. Again, this is the bench, so I'm going to be a little bit quicker with these guys. I'm not saying that Katon Wallace will ever be a starter in this league, will ever be an all-star in this league, but if Kobe Buffkin is bad next season, if Kobe Buffkin struggles, you may be seeing some Katon Wallace action, Atlanta Hawks fans, because he did just re-ink a 2-way deal with the Atlanta Hawks. So they may be seeing him if Kobe Buffkin gets hurt or just doesn't produce well enough. He could be a backup guard, maybe. At the shooting guard, do you have your shockers up? It's Craig Porter Jr. out of Wichita State. Craig Porter Jr. is not a great player. I'm just going to come out and say it. But I believe in his ability to be a productive role player. He's 6'1", but I think he plays much bigger than that. Maybe 6'2". I think he plays a lot bigger than that because he does have a 40.5-inch vertical. He's got a 185 frame, so he plays a little bit bigger than his size. I definitely don't think he's like a 3, but he's bigger. My hope was when Ty Jerome left that we would see more Craig Porter Jr. minutes. Instead, they made a move for Lonzo Ball. My hype for Craig Porter Jr. came after the 23-24 season, where he averaged about 5.5 points, 2.5 assists, 2 rebounds in 13 minutes per game. In 2024-25, Porter was given less minutes at about 10 per game. That's mostly due to the emergence of Ty Jerome becoming their backup guard and kind of taking all those minutes. So it's understandable. Ty Jerome was a 6th Man of the Year candidate. Craig Porter Jr. probably would not have been. In Game 4, the Cavs' second-round matchup against the Pacers, Porter got some run and was relatively good. 4 points, 4 assists, a rebound, and a steal. That's relatively good in just 10 minutes of work. I think he can be a good change-of-pace guard, and I think that the Cavs should have used him more against the Pacers. I'm not saying he would have won them the series or been the X factor that changed the tides. No. What I am saying is Ty Jerome was abysmal in that entire round. He was not good. They took away his floater. The Pacers took away his floater, and it was over for him. I'm not understanding why they didn't just give Craig Porter Jr. a look. If Ty Jerome's going to be terrible and he's on a contract year, what is this attachment? What is that attachment to a player on a contract year that's playing piss poor? I don't know. I think Craig Porter Jr. should have got a look. Also, Garland and Mitchell were both hurt, so they needed guard play. I don't know. I like Craig Porter Jr. a lot. I think he could be a productive player. I saw Kobe Altman was relatively hesitant to put him in trade talks, so that helps my thoughts a little bit, as maybe Kobe Altman and the coaching staff see something in him. But Lonzo Ball has not been healthy in quite a while. There's a chance that he misses time because he just has for a majority of his career. I'm just following trends. So there's a real chance Craig Porter could get a look next season. CPJ, let's see what he can provide from a backup role if it comes to that. I just hope he gets a look. He also got hurt in Summer League recently. Not great, but I think he should be all right for the season, so we'll see. I've talked about this specific player at your small forward spot in a couple of videos now where I've mentioned stagnation. It's Brandon Clark. In 2024-25, Brandon Clark averaged 8.5 points, 5 rebounds, and about a steal per game. Not bad, and he also is a plus-positive defender in my opinion. Watching him and seeing the defensive plus-minus, it grades out well. However, Brandon Clarke in 24-25 averaged less minutes per game than his rookie season, while basically erasing all of his three-point attempts. He took 62 threes in his rookie season. 62. It's not a bad number. It's not a great number. But he only took 14 last year. That's significantly less in only like less than 100 less minutes. He was never really a good three-point shooter, so if he wanted to cut them out, I guess I understand it. But I feel like adding that to his game could change his longevity and his career path all around. Because if he can be a productive and a positive three-point shooter, that would add a lot more to his game. Right now, he currently has the world-famous floater. I love the Brandon Clarke floater. He gets up very high, and it's like a push shot from the lane. It goes in a lot. I understand that. It works. But if he could add a three-pointer into that bag, it would really change things for Memphis too. Again, the floater really does work for him because his points per shot attempt number is consistently amazing, like 75th percentile or higher. So I guess maybe you don't need to change what isn't broken, but I've never thought adding to your bag would hurt you as a player. He's still a good player. This isn't a Craig Porter Jr. who showed nothing last season. This is a real player who's shown that he can be a good player, a net positive, especially when he plays the 4 with Jaren at the 5. Those lineups usually do relatively well. Him and Edey don't really run together because it clogs the paint too much for Ja Morant, stuff like that. But if you could do Jaren and Brandon Clarke next to each other, it's a pretty good lineup usually. I also like Taylor Jenkins because he started throwing shit at a wall, shit at a fan later in his tenure. Like, he was throwing out lineups with Brandon Clarke at the 4 and Santi Aldama at the 5. He was just having fun. I understand it. I like Santi Aldama, but he is not a 5. I mentioned playoff stats with Craig Porter Jr. Brandon Clarke wasn't really given the opportunity to put up playoff stats as a PCL strain ended his season like a month before the playoffs even started, so he never got the chance. However, he has had good playoff run before. I think that Brandon Clarke is a good player, but I think that he has kind of stagnated in his career. His minutes per game total has gone down. He's more of a gadgety type player than what I thought he could be, which is like a 6-man of the year type player. I can't be the only one who forgot Zack Collins was once a 10th overall pick once upon a time. 27 years old, he's shown some promise in his NBA career in my opinion, but him, similar to James Wiseman, has been clearly affected and altered by early injuries in their career, specifically a foot injury that ended his 4th season, a torn labrum in San Antonio that ended another season, plenty of ankle injuries along the way. The guy's been hurt a lot. The problem with Zack Collins, in my opinion, is he's just not really great at anything. He hustles well. He's a decent rebounder. His mid-range shooting in Chicago was really good, but in terms of career norms, it was kind of a blip. His three-point shooting hasn't really ever been good except for an outlier 2022-23 where he shot 38%. Otherwise than that, he's been a 30 to below 30% three-point shooter. It's not great. For a big man, his defense is just not that good. He plays more like a 4 than a 5. That's why I have him at the 4 in this lineup. I do believe that there's value in him. I've listed a bunch of things that he's not good at, but he is a really good player still, in my opinion. He has really good high post passing skills. You put him at the post, you run around him a little bit. It's kind of like a diet Sabonis who's just diet Jokic. And then Diet Şengün. So it's like Diet Jokic, and then kind of like, I don't even know, Sabonis is in there. They're all like of the Jokic ilk, but Zack Collins is the least talented of them. He's not a bad passer, and he provides good energy as a backup big man, and he rebounds relatively well. He can run the PNR good enough, the pick and roll. He can run that good enough. He can knock down a 3 here and there. His role with the Spurs last season was completely uprooted and changed. His role then became be the low post defender, so that way Wembanyama can roam and protect the paint, which, again, was probably the correct way to utilize Wembanyama, but it came at the cost of Zack Collins because he is not a great post defender. Collins' offensive game mostly revolves around the post and getting the ball in the post and doing a lot of passing and work down low. They have Wembanyama, man. You're not getting post touches with Victor on the court, especially when they also have Vassell, and then Fox was added later. So he was really not given any opportunities to do what he did best, which is work the post. His role then became be a pure spacer for Wembanyama, so Wemby could just do whatever the hell he wanted. I understand that. Again, it's Wembanyama. I'm not going to say pass the ball to Zack Collins. I'm not going to tell Victor Wembanyama, a goddamn alien walking amongst us, to pass the ball to Zack Collins, of all people. Absolutely not. But his role was completely changed in terms of Zack Collins' production last year, and I think that really altered his game. Obviously, he ends up in Chicago, and he has really good run there. He played pretty well. He rebounded well. He shot well from the mid-range and from 3. I don't know if those will last, but he did it, so I have to list them. Currently, the Chicago Bulls have only 2 pure centers on roster, with Nikola Vucevic and Lachlan Olbrich, which is a hell of a name. Those are the only 2 listed centers on the roster, quote-unquote. Collins will be getting full-time run as the bench big man behind Vooch, unless Lachlan Olbrich comes out of the gates firing. Zack Collins is going to be the backup 5-man with the next guy we're going to talk about. I think Collins could flourish in Chicago because they do have a good passer in Josh Giddey. Kobe White's a relatively good passer too. So is Ayo Dosunmu even. So I think there's a couple of guys that can feed him in the post, but he needs to be able to knock down his perimeter shots too, whether that's mid-range or 3. The starting center is going to be playing with Zack Collins next year. I know it's a cop-out. It's Jaylen Smith. He's also a former 10th overall pick. He also got traded early in his career, Zack Collins style. The only difference is Zack Collins got about 40 pounds on him. Jaylen Smith has had a really weird career, in my opinion. He goes to Phoenix, and Phoenix just outright didn't seem to like him from the moment he got there. He barely got any rotational PT in his rookie season. And then in his sophomore season, he gets dumped to Indiana for Torrey Craig. Jaylen Smith's 2.5 years in Indiana were kind of wild, in my opinion, as well. He shot well in 23-24. He shot 42.5% from 3 and 143 attempts. 143 attempts, 42.5%. That's pretty damn good. I think that also helps because he played with Tyrese Halliburton and other guys like that. Great facilitators that got him wide open looks. But Jaylen Smith really cashed down on his 3-point attempts that season. And then he goes and signs a deal with the Bulls, where he's like, okay. One of the big positives of Smith's game is that although he's not a pure 5, he's more of a 4. He can grab offensive rebounds. He's a really good offensive rebounder. He averages over 1.5 per game for his career, despite only playing about 16 minutes per game on average for his career as well. So in terms of per rate rebounding, offensive rebounding specifically, Jaylen Smith is pretty damn good. According to defensive plus minus and stuff like that, it says Jaylen Smith is a net positive defender. I'm hesitant to call him that because I watch the games and I see that he's not a great rim protector. He weighs 210 pounds as a center. He's 6'10", 210. 6'10", 210, I believe. He might be like 215, but either way, his nickname is Sticks for a reason, like Tristan McKenzie. Shout out Tristan McKenzie. I had to fit a baseball tie in here somewhere. It just made too much sense. But I do think that he has that problem where he's not big enough to be a 5, but he's not quick enough to be a 4. There's many such cases of this. I don't think there's a true spot Jaylen Smith has on the court, which is why I think him with Zack Collins might work out well. I don't know. This is not me endorsing and saying the Bulls are doing a great job rebuilding. This is not me saying the Chicago Bulls are going to make the playoffs next year. This is not me endorsing the Chicago Bulls' way of building or rebuilding, whatever the hell they're even doing over there. But this is me saying I haven't given up on the players that they have. Probably the wrong thing to do considering Bulls player development is horrible. It has been consistently pretty bad. Now, they can pump out really okay players. Ayo Dosunmu, Kobe White, guys like that. They haven't developed a star in a while. Like Zach LaVine is the closest thing I can think they developed into a star. And even then, he was like a fringe star. He was hardly an all-star. You know what I mean. Back to Jaylen Smith, though. I think Jaylen Smith can be a net positive NBA player if that three-point shot sticks, man. He shot 42.5% on over 140 attempts one year. Like, that's respectable. He just needs to be able to do that, and especially when he's with Josh Giddey, who's a good passer. I know there's plenty of Josh Giddey jokes, but he is a good passer, if nothing else. I think that there is a ceiling here. I don't think he's going to be the starting center anytime soon, but if Vooch gets traded, you're talking about Zack Collins, Jaylen Smith as your big man tandem. It's not a great time because both of them are better as bench bigs. That's what they're left with, though. Maybe in 2 years I'll be talking about I haven't given up on Lachlan Olbrich. That was the first time I ever heard his name, was looking at their roster. If you enjoyed this video, you should like, subscribe. Don't forget Baseball Bones was the inspiration behind this video, so show him some love if you're a baseball fan. I'm going to go catch the game. See you guys in the next one. Thanks for joining me.